Hi, everybody. This is your old pal, Uncle Hondo. I am your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer for Sports Illustrated and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. Thank you for joining me today. This is training camp report number 5 for we're taping it on Saturday. It'll be available on Saturday and then into Sunday. Where today the Raiders are not, there's no on-field practices today for the Raiders, but we're going to get into that. We're going to begin to take some information from the past week and then tell you what to look for coming up next week. There's some key things to watch. So today we're going to focus on the offense. Today's going to be a big discussion on the offense. Now, first of all, as you get ready for Monday, and this is going to be true both of today talking offense and tomorrow talking defense, is the fact that pads come on Tuesday. And that is when you will begin to see real separation at every position. That is where football is really played. That is where the game of football really takes off. And it's really how you judge people. You may remember I told you continuously throughout OTAs and minicamp that those times are for installation, not evaluation, because you can't evaluate uh, a football player without his pads on. Just you literally can't do it. You can certainly get hints. You could certainly get some ideas. But let's talk about offensively. Let's start obviously at the obvious, the elephant in the room, the quarterback position. Coming into camp, Aiden was the number one guy. AP had made that very clear that it was Aiden's job to lose. If there was going to be a tie, it was going to go to Aiden. Gardner Minshew was going to have to beat him. I can tell you this, um, in my opinion, and based on people that I've talked to who I absolutely trust and have continued to give me great information, at this point, I believe that uh, Aiden O'Connell has extended his lead. I don't in any way think it's insurmountable. I think when pads come on is when we're going to find out who the real quarterback for the Raiders is. But as much as they can do now, I do think that Aiden has broadened that a little bit. I'm going to get into why in a minute. But Gardner Minshew is absolutely within striking distance. At this point, um, it would not surprise me. I don't know that maybe that's not the right word. At this point, it would not shock me if either one of the young men are the quarterbacks of the Raiders to start the season in 2024. So let's talk about them, and then we're going to get into a bunch of other positions from last week and then what to look for in the coming week, because there's some information here I think you need to have as you're developing your evaluations. First thing is, AP has made this abundantly clear. Abundantly. The quarterback has to be able to deliver the ball accurately down the field, but he has to demonstrate ball control and ball security. Okay. That's factual. Aiden O'Connell already has a proven track record. I mean, the last 9 games of the year, last 5 games of the year, 9 touchdowns, 1 interception. He already has a proven track record. AP's belief, and he got this from playing with the Giants and Eli Manning, you need a dominant defense that can hold the other team from scoring and an offense that can go get you points and be opportunistic. Now, there is a lot to like about Gardner, and I'll get to him in a minute. But with Aiden O'Connell, I talked about this, but there were multiple times last week, multiple, where there just wasn't anything there. So rather than take a risk, he threw the ball into the ground in a place where it wasn't going to get a penalty. You certainly don't want to, get a penalty for intentional grounding, or threw the ball out of bounds. So that was good on him. I told you, in my opinion, one bad interception, and I was told by someone who agrees with me, who I think would be an authority. One bad interception. The one interception after Max had tapped him, and essentially that's a sack, was just more of a throwaway of the ball. That being said, Aiden had a very good week. Now, when you talk about that, you have to remember they're going against the best defense in the National Football League. So, did he look as good as maybe some other guys on teams without a good defense? I'm sure that he didn't. I'm sure of it. But this is where context, You can just flame and say, "Oh, Aiden looked terrible." Okay, or you have to take into context all of it. It's got to be a holistic evaluation. That's why it's so vital that you get your information from one of the many reporters that are here every day. I'm certainly not the only one. Um, and so going against the number one defense, there was, I could sit here and name you multiple pinpoint passes right on the money. Um, I can think in my head right now of 4 passes that were not caught that Aiden O'Connell delivered on a dime, on a strike, right where it needed to be, where there was no chance the ball would be intercepted. And the wide receiver either didn't make the play or the defender made a great play. Okay, that's a win. That's a win. I told you about this yesterday in practice. There was a route and where Jack Jones is covering Davante Adams. And it was, I mean, Davante ran a perfect route. Aiden O'Connell delivered a perfect ball, and Jack Jones somehow contorted his body in front of Davante to knock the ball away. And it was such a good play that Davante gets up, and I told Jack Jones as soon as he made the play, I go, I see you. I see you. But even Davante couldn't be mad about it. He did nothing wrong. It wasn't on Aiden. It was just Jack Jones is a heck of a ball player. And so, again, I think it was a good week for Davante. I'm sure there are other QB1s in the league that had better, but I don't believe any of them were going against the defense that he was. So I'm going to give him all the credit in the world there. Same thing going over to Gardner. I thought Thursday was a bad day for Gardner. And I thought Friday, no interceptions. I thought he was more protective of the football. But also at the same time, I didn't see, even though I thought he was more protective, I didn't see as many what I would talk about were quarterback inspired plays. The other thing, and I mentioned this yesterday again, and I'm going to be looking in a minute, talking about the rest of the week, but I'm just recapping super quick because the quarterback battle is so essential. Is that you saw on Friday Aiden O'Connell use his legs. Now he's been using his legs more every day, but it was a moment for him. It was the most, let's just say his face was lit up. The team responded to him scoring a touchdown and using his feet. And it was a legit touchdown. It wasn't one where he was tapped and kept running. It was a legit touchdown. And to see the whole team respond to him was pretty amazing. Now, continuing to talk about some things I saw last week that I know AP wants to be continued. This defense has been extremely vocal and voracious. I don't know that I would say intimidating to their own team in practice, but certainly last year they were intimidating. I mean, you saw the play where Jack Jones turns around, he's looking at Patrick Mahomes like, "Yo, what up?" and that was funny. But this week, especially Thursday and Friday, we saw the offense chirping back when they made plays. Oh man, it made the defense livid. And I say livid, and that's not the right term. I'm sorry about that. I take that back. But it certainly ticked them off. And not because they don't want to see their offense succeed, but it ticked them off because they're used to not having them be able to punch back. And the offense did. Now, let's continue. Again, I expect JPJ to be back Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday at the latest, but I expect him back Monday or Tuesday. He's going to have to have his certain amount of days without ads, but he's got to get back in quicker. Every day that he's out, it's putting him behind the 8 ball on being a starter. Period. It's just the reality. So JPJ's got to get back there and got to get in shape. So we're not going to be able to judge him until he's in pads. But what I will say is that he's got to get back in there quick. Every day that he's out, I believe lessens his percentage chances of being a starter. Now, let's talk about Cody Whitehair. Cody is a guy that jumps in, and he's a guy that right now is a starter. at guard. I thought Cody Whitehair has looked really good. Um, I have been impressed with him teaching. I haven't even mentioned this at all in any of the podcasts because, quite frankly, I get so many pages of notes that I have to skim it back, or I would talk to you for 2 hours every day, and I know you don't want that. Um, but Cody Whitehair, it's been interesting watching him teach. And now he's not teaching because guys don't know what they're doing. He's teaching because guys are learning the Getsy way, and he knows the Getsy way. So I've been really impressed with Cody Whitehair. He's everything that I thought he was. He was a very good player, um, very, very good player in his career previously to coming to Vegas. And he's shown that. He's a leader, he's very stable. There were a couple times where I watched a defender, remember, they're not hitting, but I watched a defender try to do a move and he was able to just put his body up and just say, no, that's not happening. So I was very impressed with Cody. Very impressed. I'll tell you another guy that's impressed me was Cassis P. Um, he's not going to unseat Colton. I mean, unless something happens with Colton's recovery that no one sees, he's not going to unplace Colton. But he is a guy that's going to, you could tell he is a wily veteran. He understands what's going on. He gets it. He's not a hype guy. Um, he's just a hard worker. Now, I want to watch him with the pads on for a couple of reasons. And once the pads come on, I still expect the Raiders defensive line to be dominant. It's the best in the NFL. But I do expect the offensive line to be better. I was asked today on a national show. I want to thank the folks at Sirius who have me on quite a bit. I was on a national show, about things that I liked and things I didn't like. And I can tell you that there's no pads. So I don't believe that you can judge the offensive line thoroughly. I mean, you got to be thorough. I don't think you can judge them thoroughly without pads. Now, I talked to AP about it, and while he agreed with me, he kind of disagreed a little bit. He wants to see some of that stuff. So the pads are going to be huge for this offensive line. If the defensive line continues to just get past them like Swiss cheese, then it'll be time to panic. Now, I'm telling you that, but I also want you to know my expectation is they're going to be fine. I really have a sincere expectation that they're going to be okay. But at the same time, until I see it, remember, sometimes I act like I'm from Missouri. You got to show me. Until I see it, I'm presenting to you, this is something of which my eyes are going to be glued to. So offensive line to me, Tuesday is bigger for all the offense. Tuesday's bigger for the offensive line. Getting the pads on. I have zero concerns about Zamir White. None. In fact, I was on a national show today, and the national person asked me about Zamir White, and I'm zero concerns. You may laugh about that, but I'm going to be as frank with you as I can. Unless an injury happens, I have about as much concern about Zamir as I do about Jakobi Meyers. None whatsoever. None. And so that's why I'm not spending a lot of time on there until pads come on. And even then, you don't want them pounding on your running back. But here's everything we thought he is. He's showing great balance, incredible shape. He's probably in the best shape of anyone on this football team. And he's walking with swag, and he's walking with confidence. And so I'm very, very encouraged by him. Let's talk about the tight ends because, again, I thought Michael Mayer had a great camp. I thought Brock Bowers, and you have to remember, they're rookies, has had a good camp. Not a great camp, but he's a rookie. And to the best of my knowledge, I remember any rookie. Boy, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't remember any rookie having a great camp. I remember some rookies having good camps, but I don't remember any rookie because there's just such a learning curve. But Brock Powers has had a good one. He is a dedicated young man, super, super high football IQ. Someone asked me on another radio show today, what current Raider would I explain him as? Now, I need you to hear me because it's a different position, but he is a Dylan Parham. He is a blue collar lunch pail, show up. I'm just going to do my job. Again, I mentioned this. Thursday was a rough day for him. Comes back Friday with some super great catches. You didn't see any of the celebration. You didn't see any of the ooh, yeah, nothing. None of the look at me. It's right back to the line. Next rep. He is just that kind of guy. That's his mentality. He's a Dylan Parham. He's not a big talker, but he's going to do his job. And you're going to respect him. And I can already tell you this. There was one particular play where Brock Bowers is out running a route, and there was a defensive back trying to guard him. And Brock's a big man now. He's a big man now. He's not little. And he moved and juxtaposed and just basically with his body knocked that defender away. Michael Mayer does the same thing, but they kind of knew it from Michael. I don't think, it doesn't matter what he did in the SEC. What are you going to do in the NFL? And I think that was his statement to the secondary. You're going to get your licks, but so am I. And I was really impressed to see that. So again, I want to watch the continuation of pads. I want to watch Brock Bowers. I think his physicality will really shine next week, and I'm going to be watching him extremely close. Okay, moving now to the wide receivers. I made a comment the other day, and it went viral. I had 2 or 3 stations from around the country, not stations. One of them was national. 2 were stations that wanted to talk to me because I talked about I think Jakobi Meyers is going to be a All-Pro. I had a lot of people throw a lot of hate at me, which is fine. I could care less. Doesn't matter. I didn't even know about it till one of my family members told me. And I'm going to go in and explain now why I'm expecting that. And unfortunately, people love to have a hot take and sound intelligent without listening. I told you there are things that I can't reveal that I see in camp, formation, usages, whatever. And that's out of respect to the Raiders. I'm a member of the Pro Football Writers Association. And we have to be extremely, we get tremendous access. But part of that is there are things that we're not going to report on. We're not going to talk about. We may share in generalities, like I shared a generality about Aiden O'Connell scoring a touchdown, but I didn't give you all of the details. Okay. And they're going to create ways to get the ball to Jakobi Meyers. Now, I had one person say to me, how do you expect them to get Jakobi Meyers to become an All-Pro on an offense with Davante Adams? Well, I think there's a good chance you could have 2 of them, but also teams are going to dominate, to try to double team and dominate Davante. Now, I don't think he can be dominated, but in this system, if he covered, you've got to go to who's open. And there's so many weapons. I think it's going to create opportunities to go to Jakobi or Trey to till teams go off the double team. I still think Davante's going to have a great year. But if there are some other things that they're able to do with Jakobi to create plays for him, I think there's a chance for him to up his yards, his touches, and all that he does. He's an explosive player and extremely explosive. And his teammates really embrace how good he is. I mean, he is that good in his relationships with the quarterbacks are good. And when you've got a Luke Getsy who's going to create ways to get him the ball, and all I would tell you is go back and look at some of Luke Getsy's past offenses, not talking about Chicago, and you can probably get an idea of how he likes to utilize certain guys who are playmakers. So I think that's a very big deal for him. a very big deal for him. And I think you're going to see Jacoby make that. Now let's talk about pads. With pads on, there's nothing I need to see from Davante. So my talking about him is not disrespect. It's complete respect that I think he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. And so there's nothing to talk about. The man has nothing to prove. Now, in training camp, I do think Davante has some things to prove. And not prove about his talent, not prove about that. I think there were some drops last year and that people gave him a lot of grace on. Not a ton, but there were some key drops by Davante Adams. And when you're unhappy with how much you're getting the ball, and he should have been, by the way, that's not a slam. That's an agreement. I'm coming into agreement with him. But if you're also going to be unhappy, you can't make some of the drops he made, and he made some unfortunate drops. And he still got over 1,000 yards and 100 catches. I mean, who we fooling? He's still, again, phenomenal player. And it's fair to talk about his decreased numbers last year when you look at the fact that most of the year he had a rookie quarterback. Those are all fair, but he still had some drops that that he shouldn't have. And he would tell you that. He would tell you that. I'm not saying anything that would offend Davante Adams. The guy's a consummate professional. It is not wrong to demand excellence out of him. And oh, by the way, no matter what you or I or AP or anyone demands, no one's going to demand more of Davante Adams than Davante Adams. But I want to, so nothing that, for training camp for him. But Jacoby, once the pads come on, I'm looking at them. I'm looking forward, excuse me, to them expanding more of the playbook and how ways that they're going to create to use him. Now, Trey Tucker. It is no secret that Trey Tucker has struggled with his hands at times. We've all known he's fast. We all know he is a tremendous receiver that can be an emerging superstar. He has worked on that. In fact, he told me yesterday how he spent so much time catching balls this offseason, more than anybody will ever know. It has shown. I am sure that he has, but I don't remember watching Trey drop one pass that was catchable this camp. Not one. And again, I'm sure he has because there's so many balls, but I don't remember it. His hands have looked spectacular. I want to watch that transition into pads and then transition into games. Again, if the Raiders have the wide receiver threats that I believe they're going to have, a 3 wide receiver threat, they are going to be outstanding. So then I want to see who's going to emerge at 4 and 5 wide receiver. Keelan Doss? Very well could. But who else? Who else? You know, Guyton's out injured. When does he come back? But when these guys are out, this is where these young pups trying to become dogs, they got to realize, man, I got to step it up. I got to step it up. I have to step it up. Why those guys are out and I'm getting more reps. You make hay while it's good. And I think that is super important, watching those others. And then the last thing I want to talk about, you know, again, recapping last week and looking forward is I want to continue to watch Coach Craig, the offensive line coach. He has intrigued me. I had heard so much good about him, a ton of good. And I believe, and I mentioned this to you earlier, I think the offensive line is going to be improved from last year. With no pads, that defensive line that's elite is able to just go through them a lot like Swiss cheese. I don't think that's going to be the case when pads come on, but I have to see it. Remember, I'm not from Missouri, but I should be. I want to continue to watch. There's one particular thing I want to talk about very little, but I'm going to talk a lot about next week is watching him teach. Yeah, we saw it in the offseason, but usually in training camp, it's go, 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 go. AP is not a guy that wants 4-hour meetings after practice. He doesn't like that. And, you know, when I say let's, I'm using the Raider voice, but AP's a guy, hey, let's correct it on the field so we're not doing a 4-hour meeting later. Someone may ask, is that a slam at Josh? I don't think it's a slam at Josh. I think it's a reality. It just wears people out. Everybody's got that one person in your life that just wears you out. They win the lottery, they're going to complain that they're paying the taxes. Every time you see them, there's always something to complain about. A particular person like that in my life, a constant complainer. I'll never forget this. They complained about everything all the time. They finally bought a new house. I thought, you know what? Things are looking up for them. I bet they're going to be different. Next time I saw them complaining that they had no furniture, just ridiculous. There's always people who are always complaining. You know it. I know it. It's the reality of life. And the the they wear you out. And Josh, with his meetings after practice, just wore guys out. He wore staff out. So I'm going to watch Coach Craig very closely with the offensive line. I think that's going to be very key and intriguing. And I guess real quickly, because tomorrow is going to be a long podcast talking about the defense and what to watch for. I'm going to address special teams real quick. I mean, we know AJ Cole's the best punter in the NFL. He's like Devontae, just off to the side. Not going to talk about him. He's the best. Daniel Carlson, I think he's the best kicker, but I'm going to watch special teams really close, especially kickoff, receive. Kickoff, receive. Oh, how in the world I forgot to talk about this guy. Please forgive me for being ignorant. I want to talk to you about Dylan Labe. He's a guy that has really shown and made some splashes. I told you it all week, but I told you at his size, I'm just going to have to see it. Tuesday's a humongous day for him. I think he's tough. But at that side in the National Football League, I have to see it. I have to. I am going to be watching Dylan Labe under the Uncle Hondo microscope. I want to watch his get off. Is he able to get off from the line of scrimmage when he's going to have 10 years of 10 yards of battling? How do the Raiders utilize him? If they don't think he's able to do the original get off, where do they move him in the backfield on offense? Let's talk about how does he do on punt? I mean on punt. How does he do on kick returns? How about punt coverage and kickoff? Does he get out there on kickoff? It's going to be fascinating. I'm really going to watch that kid close, but I'm telling you, I like him, and so do the guys. You may remember I told you guys for several years how Amik Robertson is now with the Detroit Lions was kind of like the little brother of the team. Everybody just liked Amik. And it's interesting watching the team interact with Dylan. I wouldn't, he certainly has not taken Amik's place, and I don't think you can, but they certainly like him. And when he plays, you can see guys who are over there who aren't on special teams, or guys who are, first stringers that maybe aren't out there when he's with the offense. They're looking, they're watching. And I'm not going to name any names, but I watched one particular veteran kind of look over at another veteran when he did something, go, he's turned some heads. So young Mr. Labe is going to have to demonstrate it when the pads come on next week. Listen, thanks for joining me. I hope you have a great rest of your Saturday and into Sunday when you watch this. We'll be back again tomorrow talking about the offense, doing a recap of the week with the offense and what to look for next week with our training report number 6 coming tomorrow. Today's training camp report number 5. Monday's his birthday, but I'm down here in Costa Mesa. I'm not with my youngest child, Dexter Ernest Wayne Carpenter, but Dexter Ernest Wayne, Daddy loves you and I miss you. Give Mama big hugs. 2 days away from that second birthday. Man, I love you, little buddy. Daddy misses you, and I'll see you soon, I promise. Thanks, everybody. God bless you.